When I think of pro wrestling, it feels like the type of dream that if you get to it, it means you actually ran your dream all the way to the end point. Like, I feel like a lot of people meant to be a rock star and they end up being sometimes a songwriter, which is great. This was your biggest dream and you actually hit it. Is that the case?
Absolutely. I've wanted to do it since I was like 4 years old. And I remember like even just telling my dad, like, yeah, I'm going to be the wrestler of the family, and he'd be like, yeah, okay, sure. Like he would support anything that I wanted to do, but I don't think anybody really thought that I was going to follow it all the way through. You say, I want to be a wrestler. I want to, whatever it is, whatever your dream is. And when you actually have a point where you sit back and take it all in and say, wow, not only did I do it, but then I became champion, and then I became like a history maker because we have our first time evers, especially as women. To say that I was the first ever queen of the ring, I mean, the first ever king of the
Hmm.
ring was Bret Hart, so it's cool to be like, yeah, just me and Bret, no big deal. Just, so you don't realize the gravity of the situation until you just like can take that moment to sit back and go, oh my god, I actually did it.
Hmm.
But as a young child, I know your family was super into wrestling, but how many of
Mhm.
your peer group, the kids you went to school with, the kids you hung out with in your neighborhood were into wrestling? How much of an outlier were you?
Maybe two of my friends are into it, but my brother was really into it. My brother was my best friend, so
Hmm.
like he was the one who I would go and like watch the events with or play video games with because not a lot of my friends loved playing video games or watching anime or collecting Pokemon cards or anything like that. So my brother was just really my partner in crime and all that.
And you are, as I read here on our dossier, like you are a villain. Is that right?
As of Friday, no.
Oh, as of
It's
this
Wait,
past
what?
Friday?
yes,
Well,
as
hold
of
on.
this,
Okay, before we get there, but I want to talk about being a villain, if that's okay. So,
of course.
for a movie to pull me in, for a TV show to pull me in, like I need a really relatable, interesting, and scary villain. It's really important for me. I think there's something more pure about villains. There's something more honest, I think, about villains most of the time than heroes. I'm like always very skeptical of the hero.
Yeah, and
What
don't we
about
always root for the villain? I root for the villain.
oftentimes do if it's a good villain?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you tap into to be a convincing villain?
I mean, honestly, it was really easy because number one, I'm not the like super over the top bubbly kind of personality anyway. But really, it's just looking into yourself and just dialing it up to 100. For me, I was always picked on as a kid for being smaller, or for being, liking all of these things that I do now. Just taking all of those things where I had to fight for anything that I ever gotten. Whether it came to people taking me seriously. I mean, listen, I'm also from New York, so we have to be quick with the way that we talk. And I feel like that's just an extra added bonus that I had to put on top of the character. But then you look at things for me again, I take from anime. So I look at Mamoru Uchiha, right? Ultimately, he wanted world peace, but the way he went about it wasn't the best, but he did have a point. Ultimately, even Thanos, if you look at, they do have a point. Maybe the journey there isn't the best ways, but like you can relate to them because there's always something deep rooted in them that you understand. In this crazy world, I feel especially now, it's a lot easier to understand the villains.